It's amazing to think about talking about an encounter. You know, we read in the Bible about this magnificent, mysterious, wonderful God that's the beginning and the end, and yet He encounters us. And if I'm honest, I've been a Christian my whole life, but I didn't necessarily know that God wanted to encounter me. And my experience and my journey from coming to school supernatural ministry and being part of this environment here at Bethel is that I've had so many amazing encounters, but the one that I think to share today is, honestly, it's the first one that I think of. And the reason why I think about it is because it changed everything. And I get emotional about it even now as I share because it's holy. Before I was part of school, I was part of a more conservative Christian environment and deeply loved and taught how to love the Lord and was shepherded so beautifully. But I didn't know that God could do something so powerful in my life that it would literally change how I am. I didn't know what manifestations were. I remember coming to school, I wasn't one of those people that manifested all the time. And I feel to say that because I think sometimes when we're listening to these things, we can categorize ourselves out of a powerful encounter. I definitely had. And but I got desperate, and that's just the truth, is that I was leading a ministry school and loving everything about it, but had been battling the fear of man since I got saved, probably. And that existence of the fear of man in me caused me to live a life of perpetual sacrifice, but I wasn't living a life of full obedience. And living in constant sacrifice, I was often operating in my own strength, trying to push through what felt impossible, which was the opinions of people. And the more favor I would get, the more I would speak on stages or in environments, the more the fear would increase, and I'd be afraid before I spoke. Often I'd be afraid during I spoke, and I definitely would be afraid after. And I never felt good enough. I always felt like I was too much or not enough. And in fact, I completely burnt out. I was at the end of my rope. My body was telling me that it was exhausted. And in the middle of this burnout that I had adrenal fatigue, I had viral fatigue, 2 viruses happening, reawoken in my body, mono and shingles at the same time. And in the middle of this, I get called out and given a prophetic word by Michael Koulianos. And he called me out at an Open Heavens conference in 2019 that I had snuck into the back of because I was hungry because I needed something. I needed God, and I had a relationship with God, but I knew something needed to shift. And Michael gave me a word, and he basically said that there's a rumble inside of me, but the fear of man needs to die. And that day I went down and I received something. I think I received a seed. I didn't come off the floor without the fear of man, but I came off the floor knowing that something had happened. And in this process, the Lord had asked me, would I give him the shield of the fear of man? And I asked him in exchange, well, God, will you be my shield? And so for 3 months, every day, I would have this conversation with the Lord. Lord, I give you my shield of the fear of man. God, will you be my shield? And on January 14th of 2020, was like the culmination moment of stewarding this little seed that God had given me. And honestly, I didn't quite know how to steward it. I was just doing the best I could. It's the beauty about God. He's so full of mercy. He's not looking for perfect. He's really just looking for what we have. It was the end of a school day, our second year school supernatural ministry that I was leading at that time. And at the end of a school day, right as we were wrapping up, the power of God hit me. In fact, it was just a day of facing the fear of man over and over again and choosing not to hide behind that shield. And it was a final moment where I felt the Lord ask me to lay hands on someone. And I knew in that moment I needed to be obedient to God. And as I leant forward to lay hands on this person, the raw power of the Holy Spirit hit my body and coursed from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And as I stretched my hands out, it shot out of my hands, and the person that I was about to touch started getting radically touched by the power of God. And it didn't stop there. I remember looking over to one of my third year students saying, text my husband, tell him I'm not going to be home right away. And 3 hours later, I remember coming to, and I was being carried around the room by 2 of our male revival group pastors, 2 of my friends. And there's probably about 200 people encountering the Lord on the floor. And I had sweat through all of my clothes because I'd shaken so violently under the power of God. And in this 3 hours that I was in, it was like I can remember some of my thoughts, but they were not my thoughts. They were the thoughts of God. And all I heard him say over people were that this is my resting place. This is my prepared place. This is my house to hold my glory. And the beautiful thing is that it didn't end on January 14th, but for 6 weeks, in ebbs and flows, the same power that touched me that evening would be touching me in my sleep, would be touching me in the grocery store, would be touching me in my kitchen. And in this encounter that lasted for 6 weeks, my intimacy with the Lord and my awareness of the power of the Holy Spirit was awoken to another level. And I realized that for a long time I'd been crying out for God to fill a room when he wanted to fill me. And I realized that I was well on my way to good form, but I needed power. And the power in the Christian life isn't our striving. The power in the Christian life is the person of the Holy Spirit. God doesn't give us tools to deal with circumstances. He gives us himself. Unapologetically, without restraint. He touches us and he fills us with himself. And after that 6-week encounter, the prophetic word of Michael Koulianos came true. The fear of man was dealt with in my life. And I'm a different human. In fact, January 14th is like a birthday for me. It's as beautiful as my conversion day, because it was the moment that God, by his mercy, he dealt with the thing that was holding me back, that was exhausting me, and he met me and he filled me with himself. And I will give the rest of my life to speaking about the goodness of God and the person of the Holy Spirit, because he is vital to us in the Christian life. And he wants to encounter us. He wants to be near us, and he wants to encounter you. He wants to meet you. And he might not meet you the same way that he met me, but I want to tell you, he will meet you the way that you need. And he will give you more than you could dream, think, or imagine. And so I want to invite you to posture yourself, to open yourself. As I had to surrender the shield of the fear of man, maybe there's something you need to surrender. And so as you do, anticipate that at some point, very soon, God is going to meet you and he's going to change everything.